Hey everybody, welcome to BJD DollFam, and we have ourselves a brawl coming because we're doing a Battle of the Dolls today. So let's see how this goes. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. As you saw again in my title and now in my intro, we are doing a Battle of the Dolls. And we're doing a Smartdoll versus Dolphy Dream comparison video. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce you to contestant number 1 here. This is Riley. She was my first Smartdoll, so I started my channel doing my unboxing with Riley, and I figured she would be the perfect candidate to do my comparison video with since she was my first. And I'm going to do my first Dolphy. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you or reintroduce you to my Dolphy Dream here. This is the Dolphy Dream sister Nanami. She has gotten some changes as well. So as I said, I got some enhancements for Riley, which was upgrading her chest to the medium bust. So she got some enhancements there. Otherwise, she's the same standard doll that comes otherwise, so that's why I'm going to use her for this comparison. And for my Dolphy, as you can see, if you follow me on Instagram, you already knew this, but she also got some enhancements. As you can see, I changed her hair, so she went from her default wig from Volks to this is actually a Culture Japan. This is a Mirai wig that comes with the Smartdoll Mirai, the anime Mirai, and I put it on her as I just wanted to see what it would look like, and I actually really like the way that this looks on her, so I've decided to keep it. Anyway, again, we're gonna go into our comparison videos. So, straight off the bat, as you can see, just kind of standing straight up and foot to foot, the two dolls. The Dolphy, this is a Dolphy Dream sister, so this is actually smaller than a normal Dolphy Dream, where I feel like the regular Dolphy Dream would be probably the same size as Riley. So there is a little bit of a height difference, but please know that is because the Dolphy Dream sister is actually a little bit smaller height. So otherwise the dolls are the same. Again, this is why I'm doing the comparison for these. Anyway, back on topic. So both of these girls are vinyl dolls, as you know. This is from Culture Japan, which is the store run by Danny Chu. And this is the Smartdoll brand. And this is the Volks Dolphy Dream. So this is from the company Volks, which is also a company in Japan that does not only vinyl, but resin dolls as well. But this is their vinyl. And since these are both vinyl dolls, their components internally are very similar as far as them having like an internal skeleton, or at least kind of like it's like a inner frame, I guess, so to speak, which gives them their mobility. And then the dolls themselves have like an outer vinyl covering that to kind of emulate a real body. But anyway, besides that, they're very similar. We'll go ahead and start with the head mobility. So for the sake of doing the video, I'm going to do Smartdoll first, and then I'm going to do the Dolphy Dream as my second. So I'm going to go ahead and put Nanami, I'm going to lay her down for a second, and we're going to jump into Riley. So we're going to start with the head and neck area for both dolls. So you guys already know that there is a peg whenever I take the head off. I've popped the head off in a few of my other videos, or at least the first video for her, and I believe I did it for Nanami as well when I was putting her wig on. It's just easier for me to take the head off and put the wig on and then reattach the head. But anyway, there's a little peg that comes out of the spine, which is where the head goes on. And they're able to do, you know, the normal side to side. That's kind of, you know, standard. But because the chest piece, this is all vinyl, and there is the internal frame, you are able to kind of grab her by the neck, and then you can get more like an up and down look with just moving the neck. You can also do a side to side, so you can kind of tilt the head to the side here, and then you can do the same and tilt the head over to the other side. So it's kind of realistic in that aspect. Just as you can move your head and I can move mine around your neck, you know, you kind of get that whole range of motion like that. You know, having the soft vinyl in the chest area allows these dolls to get the same kind of motion. So that is the head and neck. And I'll go ahead and put Riley down, and we'll go ahead and I'm gonna pull up Nanami. And again, she's kind of in the same boat as Riley. So there is that peg that comes up from the spine, and we'll do a look down so that she can kind of get her movement down to here. I'll kind of move her hair over so you can see. She can look up. You can look up and kind of get back. She doesn't get as far back, I think, as Riley, but I think Riley's neck is a little bit longer. But you know, she can get that. And then you look forward, and this is over to the side. To the other side. It's kind of hard to do, sorry. Kind of over to the other side, but you can see the movement that she gets, and then of course she can look side to side. And again, it's easier to grab them by the neck to do the movement there instead of using the head, because that tends to stretch out the hole that's at the bottom of the head that the spine piece that I was talking about, or the neck piece, pegs into. So that was Nanami, and now we can go back to Riley for our next portion. So the next portion, going down as we're trying to do, we started at the neck and the head. Now we're going to kind of do the upper torso, and we'll do the arms and hands. So the upper torso, I don't know if you can see too well. Here, let me try and that. As you can see, there's like a little divide right here, and that is so the chest piece is its own floating piece, and it'll allow your smart doll to do movements like this, where she can kind of bend. Try and get that out of the way, get her hair. She can bend forward. There is a gap in the vinyl. Not all of the dolls, well, they're gonna have the gap, but depending on how it's cut, it may or may not catch and kind of like fold in on itself. So like if I pull her back, you know, sometimes it'll get caught in that piece when she bends back, but she can bend that way, and she can bend back, and again, you'll get a gap in the front. This is kind of an extreme bend. You wouldn't naturally do this, but I can see like if you were doing like a laying down pose or something like that, where you may want to do that kind of extreme positioning, but usually you're not going to do that. So that's kind of the range of motion there, front to back. And then with this, I'll kind of pull her arms out. She does also get movement from side to side, so she can go to that side and to that side just as well. As you can see with the way that the the way that the smart dolls are set up, she can get a pretty wide range of motion on either side, which I believe that's one of the reasons why people like Smart Doll. They do have a lot of upper range of motion. Let me arrange her. Sorry about that. She's kind of flashing everybody, but anyway, they do get a lot of range of motion in that upper body, which I do personally like myself. And I know a lot of other doll collectors of these dolls also will agree. It's a really great posability, and it looks fantastic for, you know, natural poses, especially when you're wearing a dress or something like that, and you're not in a like bikini top like I have now, where you can kind of see the gaps when she's making the extreme bends and twists and curves and such, so to speak. So anyway, we're going to move on to the arms. The arms are both the same, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the one arm and use it as an example, but please note that the range of motion is the same on both. So her range of motion, she can obviously do a full turn. Nothing crazy there because it pegs into the shoulder joint, and she can move her arm. If I was to move it just straight out, this is about as far as it'll go. As you can see, that's as far as it'll go before it starts to make the body start to shift and go that way. So this is how far your range of motion can go with the arm that way. Obviously, with the arm going the other way, you can get straight up. But if you were to just raise your arm straight out, kind of like you can only go but so far, you know, without hurting yourself, or in this case, hurting the doll. So it gets straight out like that. And we'll go ahead to the elbow joints. So for her elbows, turn her this way. She can get a good 90 degree. That's great. And then if you continue to go, her joint will pop out. She's double jointed. So she's able to get all the way back up pretty much at like a 180 degree, which is also really great. I will say when you go to put the arm back, it's going to be really weird. So as you can see, it's pretty double jointed. You're not going to notice it too much, especially if you're wearing long sleeves. You don't really notice the craziness of this joint because it doesn't look pretty when it's out all the time. But again, when you're wearing long sleeves, you're not going to notice it as much. But when you pull it out to fix it, you know, this is what it's going to look like. And again, it's not very attractive, but you just have to twist and put the peg back in, and then her arm is back to normal. Okay, so that was up and down the elbow bend. Then you have the wrist, which is also on a ball joint, but if you get the doll, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The elbows and the knees are kind of the same. It's on a ball joint, however the ball is a hinge, so like I can't do, with the way that the hinge is facing, it'll allow me to do a forward bend and a backward bend like that, but I cannot do an up or a down unless I turn the joint. So as you can see, I completely turned the hand with the joint, but I can do now an up and a down on that hinged ball joint. But please know that that is for all of the joints. They're on like a hinged ball joint, so do not force it. If it doesn't want to go in that direction, check to make sure that the ball is in the right facing direction before forcing that hinge, or else you will stress it and you will break it. And we don't want that. So that was up, down, that was your elbow, that was your wrist joint. That also allows you to kind of get across the body. You cannot get the arms to kind of hug itself, but you can get the arms to cross over and go in kind of any direction like that. Oop, I just shot her bracelet off, so I apologize. Pardon me for 1 second while I fix that. Anyway, that was Riley and her arm and shoulder mobility, elbow mobility. And now I'm going to move on to Nanami for the Dolphy version of the bending of the joints. So her situation is actually very similar. So I'm not going to do the full 180 on her arm here because she's wearing a shirt. So it's not going to allow me to do so without messing up the shirt. But know that when the shirt is not on, she can too do a 180 with her arm. So we're going to start with her arm facing regular. This is about how far her arm will go up before we get to the point where it would be forcing it and it's not going to be fun or pretty. So this is without forcing it, how far up it'll go, which is a little, I think it's a little, just ever so slightly higher than the Smartdoll, but it's the exact same mobility. Same thing if I put her arm straight, she can go straight up, no issues. Let's go ahead and pull her arm to the side again. Actually, let me do it this way and turn to the side because this is what I did for Riley anyway. So the next thing we're going to do is the elbow test. So what we're going to do is the elbow test. So this is what her arm is straight down, and she too can do her 90 degrees really well. She also pops out and has a double joint that allows her to almost get like a full 180, but as you can see, the way that her arm is just like sculpted, it doesn't get as close as the Smartdoll did, but it's the exact same scenario. So when you pull down, the joint's not going to look all that pretty, but you just kind of go ahead and twist a little bit, kind of wiggle it and get it to go back into place, and you're good to go. Okay. The wrist joints are the exact same, where it's a ball on a hinge, but these are, I feel like the ball joints on the wrists of Dolphy's are a lot easier to twist with the hand on, whereas for some reason the ones on Smartdoll, when you turn the hands and you do these kinds of things, the hand is kind of, it twists on its own, so it may not align with the way that the hinge is, therefore causing problems. Because again, like the way that her hand's facing right now, I can't do up and down because of the joint. But if I turn it this way, I can get the movement, but I can't turn the hand. So the hand is attached to the joint and it just kind of goes up and down no matter which way it is. It's the same, the hand's facing the same way, if that makes any kind of sense at all. And I will also say overall, as of right now, I know Danny is working on it, but the joints are stiffer on the Smartdolls compared to the Dollfie. They hold their poses extremely well, but getting them into poses, the Dollfie is a little bit easier, as I said, than it is for a Smartdoll. But anyway, we'll go ahead and put Nanami down for now. And I'll go ahead and pull Riley back up. So we've already done the upper half of the body. So we've done the arms, the torso, or the upper torso, the neck, and the head. So now we're gonna go to, and I just shot her bracelet off again, so I apologize. I'm not gonna worry about fixing it this time. So now we're gonna do the hips down to the feet, and I'm gonna do Smartdoll first, then I'm going to do Dollfie. So the way that the legs and stuff are on a Smartdoll, if you were to sit her down, and I know that she has clothes on, but if I took the clothes off, I'm going to be completely honest with you, there is virtually no difference with how the posing is going to be, which is the only reason why I kept the clothes on. So, if I go to sit Riley down, this is about how far forward she will sit. And I know it looks really awkward because she's leaning back, because she's not at a full like 90-degree angle, and she won't because of the vinyl on the legs and the vinyl on this her stomach, her midriff, and her arms are the same vinyl, and it's a lot harder than the chest. The chest is significantly softer. If you own a Smartdoll right now, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I do know that Danny, again, is working on possibly making a complete Smartdoll with the same soft vinyl as the chest. He has released a couple of them in the prototype garage already. So it is something that he's played with. I don't know if we're going to see it anytime soon, but it is worth mentioning because, and I apologize, it is worth mentioning because he is working on a new frame as well. So this video right now is current and how all the standard Smartdolls are, but in the future he is going to be releasing a new internal frame and potentially a new body shell as well to go with it, because the new frame has a lot more mobility. So be on the lookout for that, and when he does release a new Smartdoll, I'll absolutely try and grab one with the new body so I can go over all of the new posability, and we can come back to this video and look at the difference in all together. But anyway, I keep going off on tangents, I'm sorry. Let's talk about her sitting. So if she sits like this, again, it's not at a full 90 degrees, and if you do want her to sit on your shelf and kind of look like she's sitting straight, it is going to require you to kind of pull her forward. And in the back, let me move her hand out of the way, as you can see, it looks awkward from the side and from the back, but like if you were to look at her straight on, you couldn't tell. So sitting her on the shelf, you know, leaning her forward, while it looks weird from other angles, from the front it doesn't look too bad, but that's just because you're making up and you're sitting her straight. Like if I have her hair, like you get a doll with longer hair, as you can see, you can't really tell too much, but you do know that she is sitting back and kind of like leaned forward, hunched forward a little bit, hunched back. But anyway, that's about her sitting range. to going forward. Okay, and then her legs, they go to about here, which her legs are about 90 degrees. They do not go back any further. As you can see, I'm actually putting a little bit of pressure. I don't want to break it or stress the knees too much. But the main reason for that is because the way that the thighs are made and the way that the calf muscle comes out, it kind of stops at that, just at 90 degrees, and there's not really a whole lot more motion in that you're going to get. That's just the unfortunate thing, but you'll see it's a pretty common vinyl doll feature. So moving down from the knees, we have the feet. They're also on a very similar hinge joint to the hands, where there is a ball. I know I have shoes on her, but again, it's a peg that goes into the frame here in the calf, but it's on a ball joint, so you can get some motion down, forward. This is as far as they'll go, and then if you go up, they stop kind of at flat foot at this angle right here. They don't go up any further, but they are on a hinge, very similar to the ankle, or excuse me, to the wrist, so you can spin it around and do whatever, but you can also spin that joint around if you want it to be bent at like a different space instead of just up and down like that. So, and again, the feet do the same thing as the hands, so you want to make sure that the hinge is facing the same way that the feet are, or the way that you want to bend it. So for her thigh joints, well, not her thigh, her hips, excuse me. For her hip joints, she can go out about this far in a split. She doesn't go any farther than that, again from the hard plastic, but she can get pretty wide in a split, which I think is pretty impressive, but that's about it. She doesn't go back. Forgot to look, going back, she stops here. She does not go back any further because the booty's too big. So she stops here. She goes forward, but she doesn't go back, and she goes out, but not too far. And there isn't a thigh swivel, so you can't really twist. Like, you can twist the thighs a little bit to face inward, but like you're not gonna get a whole leg turn at all. And that's just the way that the vinyl sits on the frame, and that's just how these dolls are built. So you're not gonna get a turn in the thigh or a thigh swivel at all. So keep that in mind if you're getting a smart doll. The legs have probably the least amount of mobility and range of motion for the dolls, so posing can get difficult. Again, it's kind of a discretionary choice, and there is a frame that Danny's working on that's going to have a little bit more mobility, but how he does it with the new body or how he's going to get it to work with the current body is his challenge, and we shall see more in the future, hopefully. So that is basically Riley, and we'll go ahead and jump over into Nanami now. So for Nanami, as I said before, it's also a vinyl doll. We'll go ahead and get into her legs and hips. So I'm going to open her arms up and T-pose her just a little bit. Oh, you know what? I also forgot when I did her arms, so I apologize, guys. I just thought about it, was her torso, her upper torso movement. So I do apologize about that. So her side to side, she doesn't get as much of a side to side as Smart Doll does. She does have a really soft chest compared to the rest of her body. But her chest, instead of cutting straight across, it does come down. There's like a little bit of a dip, and that's just to hide any gaps that could potentially happen when she moves from side to side. But she can do side to side, but it's not as extreme. And she can do a forward crunch, again, not as far, and she can do back to like that. So she does have a lot more limited upper torso movement than a Smart Doll. But again, her movement and fluidity of her movement is a lot more smooth, in my opinion, than a Smart Doll. So we're going to Nanami's legs and her hips and her feet. So we'll show you how that goes. So she can actually sit all the way at a 90-degree angle, whereas the Smart Doll you saw, she would sit down straight and she had a lean back, and you kind of had to lean her forward a little bit to get her to look like she was sitting straight. You do not have to do that with the Dollfie. You can get her at a 90-degree sitting angle, so you can sit her flat and she's going to look good regardless of how you have her posed. Her knees are going to be very similar, so let me go ahead here and kick her leg out, and we'll go ahead and bend her knee. So she does get a little bit more knee bend, whereas the Smart Doll kind of stopped at the 90-degree. She can bend out a little bit further. Let me see if I can get a good, it's kind of on her hinge that she has in here. Her hinge joint is a lot nicer. It allows her to get out further, but there is kind of a gap. So if you don't have any stockings or socks, kind of like I do, that kind of covers that knee joint, there may be a gap that you may or may not like, but she does get more mobility back, not by much, but there is a little bit of mobility back there that the Smart Doll does not get. She cannot sit on her legs, like she cannot sit back on a kneel. Like she can get to there, but she's not going to be able to get all the way back without forcing her and potentially breaking her. So the Smart Doll stops here, she can go back to here. So she does get a little bit of extra knee bend movement, which would be good, especially when the Dolphy Dreams have like Sailor Moon and stuff like that. They get a little bit more posability. They can get better action shots in those regards. You can still get them with Smart Doll, but I think a lot of the action poses and good mobility poses like that are going to take a little bit of forced perspective. So that's something to note as a photographer that you may have to do in order to get the shot to look good. Anyway, we're going to keep moving down to her feet. So her feet are very similar to the Smart Doll, so they can get to about here. They're on a hinge, and then they can go that way. They do get a little bit more motion forward, whereas the Smart Doll kind of stops at flat foot. Hers can go up just a little bit, and then hers can go down. It's about the same, it's just ever so slightly better in those ankle joints. But again, it's very slim. Same thing with the knee. It's a little bit different, but ever so slightly better, in my opinion. So let's talk about her hips. So she can actually split out to here, which is about the same as the Smart Doll. She can't do a full split, but she can split out. And her hip joints are a little bit different. She can do she gets a little bit of a full leg swivel, but it's not significant, so I wouldn't say it's anything to kind of brag home about. But as you can see, if I do like that, she can move her feet out, move them inward a little bit, so she can get some pretty good poses, and she can go out and over a little bit to the side, which the Smart Dolls can't do at all. So she can kind of, spread out a little bit, and Smart Doll cannot spread out this far. So, with that being said, we are done with our comparison of range of motion and our two dolls. I do want to say I'm very thankful that you guys stopped by today and came to see this video. I know there's been a want for me to make this video comparing my two dolls, or at least the two brands of dolls. And I really enjoyed doing it because it does kind of give a little bit of a different outlook on things. Excuse me, one thing I just noticed now, for example, is the Dollfie has, like a thicker arm. It's shorter but thicker compared to a Smart Doll. The same thing with the joints. The joints on the Smart Doll are thinner, whereas the ones on the Dolphy Dream are a little bit thicker. I don't really think you can go wrong if you were to get either brand. Again, they're very similar in how they feel. As far as like the vinyl goes, their mobility is very similar. If I had to choose, as far as posability and joint fluidity and the overall feel, I do feel like Dolphy is the better option, as it does offer a little bit of a wider range of motion, and the joints are a lot smoother. They're not as hard to get into position. They hold position very well, and overall, it's just a good buy. Now for Smartdoll, they also have their benefits as well. I do like the quality that Danny Chu puts into Smartdoll. They're all hand cut, they're all hand painted, you know, the wigs are hand done, the clothing's hand done, you know, so it's perfectly imperfect, as they like to brand everything. And I think that's part of their charm as well. You know, they are easy to move, but again, their joints tend to be a little bit stiffer. So it is worth to note that the joints on the Smartdoll are probably going to hold longer. So over time, things like that, if you were to have like a prop or something, this one may be able to continue to hold the prop for an extended period of time, where I do fear that Dolphy may get weaker joints over time, and therefore if they were to hold like a staff or a sword or something, you know, their arms may sag or drop or lose the position, just because of how loose the joints already are. But don't get me wrong, they do hold position very well. So again, I don't think you can go wrong with either brand, truthfully. Again, it comes down to personal preference and what you think. But anyway, if you enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and hit the like button. Leave a comment down below. Are you Team Dolphy or are you Team Smartdoll? Are you Team Riley or are you Team Nanami? Go ahead and post it down in the comments. Let me know, are you considering getting a Smartdoll? Are you considering getting a Volks Dolphy Dream? Who's your next doll purchase? Who are you excited to see? Who are you hoping to see? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and subscribe if you have not already. I do know that there are a lot of you that have tuned into my videos either through my links on Instagram or maybe finding it through a recommended video on YouTube. And I would really greatly appreciate if you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button. The more subscribers we get, the closer we can get to getting the channel monetized, and we can go ahead and get some more stuff for you guys. We can start investing back into the videos and getting stuff done. My ring light turned out, so it's time for me to go ahead and wrap it up. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!